need to make strategic decisions in our businesses. But what if we failed in the past? Can we bring ourselves to take a risk again? What if when we are on the brink of making a decision, those past failures kind of come back to haunt us? What do we do if our old fears and doubts materialize again? That's what I want to talk about in today's video. So as we start, and in case you don't know me, I ran my first business when I was around 20 years old. I actually inherited a business from my grandfather. I had no experience whatsoever and was completely unprepared for what I would have to take on. Looking back at some of the decisions that were made for this company at the time, I think to myself, they weren't really my decisions, and yet I had the responsibility for those decisions. They sat with me. And as a result, I also had to suffer the consequences of some that maybe didn't go the way that we'd hoped. Those early failures really set the tone for how I would make decisions in my own businesses in the future. And I think that's inevitable, honestly. And in fact, I know this because I've seen it playing out many, many times with my business owner clients who go through the same doubts and fears when they're making strategic decisions. The fact is, we are conditioned by our past experiences. And sometimes it can help us and sometimes it can hinder us. And because of that, I wanted to come up with a simple formula, a process that I could use and also that I could share with business owners that would guide them through the decision-making process to make sure that they weren't being held back purely as a result of having been through these experiences before and fearing that the same thing was going to happen again. So today I want to share with you the SIM method. So SIM stands for strategy, information, and mindset, because those are the three key areas that you'll want to be focusing on as you go through the decision-making process. And particularly anytime you notice that you're kind of holding back from making a decision that would move your business forward and you think it may be because of these past fears. So number one, strategy. First of all, I want you to ask yourself, is this decision in alignment with my vision for my company? And this is key because often when I'm talking to business owners, it's an easy yes to this question. Because if there's a decision that needs to be made and you're very aware that it keeps coming back to you and keeps coming back every time you haven't made it, chances are it is a strategic decision. It's something that you know is going to move your business forward. And guess what? If your answer is yes, that should give you confidence to move forward. So that's step one. Step two is information. Now, it goes without saying that of course we're going to need information to make good decisions. Do you have the people? Do you have the time to spend on it? Do you have the money to see it through? It's important to spend a good amount of time looking at those things. And again, this is a confidence building exercise because you're really thinking about, what do I need to plan for in my business? And sometimes when we're holding back, it's because there's actually a bit of additional information that we haven't got yet. There's a corner around which we can't see. There's something that we really haven't worked out yet, and we're holding back for good reason. And that's because we've got an information gap that we really need to plug. Just remember, decision making is a process and it doesn't have to happen overnight. Sometimes you will have to react quickly to an opportunity, but you can still do so in a way that's measured. But with most decisions, that's really not the case, and you have plenty of time to make your decision. So don't feel that you're under unnecessary pressure. But at the same time, sometimes we just know that we're spending longer over a decision than we need to, that we are genuinely holding back. And then that's something that we need to look at. So we're on to the final M of mindset. If you answered positively to number one, that you know that your decision is a strategic one, that it's going to move you closer to your goals, and also that you've gone through the information piece and you've got as much information as you could possibly need to make this decision. If you're still holding back, then there's something else going on. Sometimes we can be really excited about a new venture, a new direction, a new project that we want to undertake in our business. And it's tempting to just kind of push down those intuitive nudges that perhaps are calling from our wisdom and experience to say, oh, maybe you just need to check that out a bit more, or maybe you just need to take your time with that. Now that could be the voice of wisdom and reason, and you do have to slow down to hear it. Now if you do that and you do become aware of something that is a nudge telling you that you're not comfortable about something, then it's back to the information phase for you. Maybe there's some sort of safeguard that you could be putting in place. So for example, if you're undertaking a joint venture and you've never done that before, you're working in partnership with someone, and perhaps there's been a bad experience in the past, and you need to consolidate that learning really and take it into the future, then maybe you need to set some parameters for that project, or maybe you need to discuss with this potential partner what happens if you have some kind of dispute or difference of opinion as to how things are going. How are you going to handle that? And sometimes it's about having those conversations, and that will give you the confidence that you need to move forward, depending of course on how those conversations go. Sometimes our intuition is purely fear-based, and actually having those conversations can give us more confidence that yes, this is the right decision and this is the right partner, and you've allayed your concerns. Whereas at other times, sometimes your intuition is telling you not to proceed, and having had those conversations, you decide, yeah, it's right not to proceed. So do you see what we're doing here? We're going back to the mindset to really try and understand what's going on in our heads and what we're feeling in our bodies, so that we can then take another step. So the point is not to sit in indecision, it's to get us into action again. We know about the mistakes that we made in the past, and that's what stopped me taking action on subsequent businesses so often. Because I'd really experienced the fallout of things going wrong, and it was painful. If that's you and you're thinking, yeah, Fiona, I know what that's like, then the thing I need you to recognise is what I was saying to one of my clients just last week. Then is not now. So let me prove it to you. Back when I was in my 20s, trying to run a business for the first time, knowing absolutely nothing about this business, I was so out of my depth that I just listened to anybody's opinion about what I should or shouldn't do, because I just didn't trust my own decisions. I didn't have enough information. I didn't have enough wisdom or experience. I mean, it was true. I just didn't know what I was doing. Added to that, I had absolutely no financial management skills. I mean, beyond, I was a student at the time, so I'd had a go at trying to manage my overdraft, but that was about all, and quite honestly, I'd not done a great job of that either. But now I was responsible for hundreds of thousands of pounds. I mean, that actually sat with me, and that was really scary. I think at the time I just assumed that I had people around me that I could probably trust, and that somebody would keep me right, somebody in authority. I was very much looking outside of me for somebody to save me. My strategy at the time amounted to trying to keep up with what was going on and not mess things up too much. And against all that, it is a wonder that we managed to build the company up to 3 million. But at the same time, with more experience, I would have done things very differently. And that's the point really about then is not now. Because when I need to make a business decision 25 years later, I am not looking through the lens of a 20-year-old with no experience. I'm looking through the lens of somebody who has another 25 years of experience, not just in business, but in life. So just remember what you're comparing. Perhaps you do fear that you made a mistake in the past, that you took a step and it didn't really go the way you wanted it to. But are you really the same person now that you were then? Or do you have different skills? Do you have a different level of experience? Are there other things that you've learned that are going to guide you and shape you in making this decision now? And also, are the circumstances different? Because I know that as a 20-year-old, I really didn't know how to capitalise my resources. I didn't know how to access things that I didn't have, or really to answer questions that I didn't know the answers to. I had no idea how to do a financial projection. I didn't know what safeguards were available to me, never mind putting them in place. And still, even now, I'll level with you. These fears and doubts, the same ones, come up time and time again, and it manifests as a feeling. It's a feeling of pressure, and it's something that I remember feeling all those years ago when I felt out of my depth. Sometimes when there's a financial commitment to be made, those same feelings resurface. And it's this sense of, what if it goes wrong? Will I still be okay? But I also decided some time ago now that I wasn't going to let these things stop me. So instead, I decided I would use it to educate myself. that I would allow these fears and these doubts to come up, but at the same time, I would recognize them for what they were. And if, having gone back and said, is there more information that I need to get? Is there wisdom that I've learned from the past that I really need to be applying to this situation? Once I've been through that process, I've got to come to this point where I realize that it's purely me. I am the one stopping me. And I decided some time ago that I'm just not going to be that barrier. So let's just do a quick recap, because if you're on the verge of making a decision and you're really feeling like you're holding back, you're not quite sure, is this because there's something I really need to listen to, or is it because I just need to take the action and get on with it? Then number one, strategy. Is this decision going to take me closer to what it is that I want for my company? Number two, information. What information do I need to make a good decision? And number three, mindset. If I'm feeling doubt or fear, is it real? Is there something there that I need to listen to? Or are those fears and doubts outdated? And just remember that it's a tiny percentage of people that actually take action in spite of their fears. So make sure you're one of them. Because when you get into the habit of doing this, and it is a practice and a habit, that's when you'll actually go out and crush your goals. And that's what I want to see you doing. Take care, and I'll see you soon.